So in this example, we're going to have a look at how we can sort of put everything we've looked at so far together into a single sort of project. And in particular, we're going to look at how we would create a project that we'd use in something like the first year unit procedural content creation. So we're going to start with creating a new empty project. And again, that's as simple as changing to the folder that we want to work in. What I might do is make a folder called PCC and change to PCC. So, oops, like that. So basically, everything we're going to work with in here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to say UV init, and we'll call it pillow project. So we're going to use pillow, change into pillow project there, and we've got our stuff there by default. So now if I add UV add, now in this case, what we did last year, we used PyEnv to install everything, and by default we also installed NCCAPY, because NCCAPY installs the NCCAPY library, it installs Pygame, and it installs Pillow. And for most of the first year teaching, that's all we need. So in that case, we can do the same, NCCAPY. So we add NCCAPY there. Creating the VM again, it's added the packages. You'll note it's really quick now because we've already installed these last time. So we can just open this up in the Z editor. Again, Z dot opens it up in project mode. Here's the default project. We don't really want that, so we can get rid of that. And here's one of the simplest examples that we use with the students. So from pill import image, set our width and our height, and then create a new image with background color and show that image. And at its simplest level, now all we need to do is we need to go through, so let's just open up the terminal to make it easier. There, I can then just type UV run main.py, and there's our image. Open it up in the default image editor, all nice and happy. We can go through and change that, rerun it there, and it all just works nice. And we can sit and we can experiment and change how it works. So from that point of view, it's all quite nice and easy. If we wanted to make it an executable to run in the terminal a bit better, I said before what we can do is we can go through and do the chmod to make it executable. So we can still do that, chmod plus x main.py. Now if I try to run this now, obviously it's just going to complain because at the moment it's defaulting to think it's a Zsha thing. Now we're going to add a different shebang than we usually do. So we're going to add in user bin env. Then we're going to do the minus capital S to say run this in script mode, and we're going to say UV run minus script. Now this is a bit long-winded, it's bigger than UVM Python 3, but basically this is running env in script mode to run UV run, and then this minus script is saying run this current script, so run this code. So this is the sort of default now shebang that we can use. This will now manage activating the VM if not activated. It will manage the sync and making sure everything's there and everything else. So as we'll see in a second, I can go through here now, I can just run main.py and it's run. But also now, if I nuke the VM, so I've completely removed that, we're no longer synchronized, there's nothing there. As I run this now, you can see that it's creating our VM for us, activating everything and going. So there's a major advantage in that now under the hood, we can give code and just say run that, and it will run it in the existing environment. So as long as UV is in the path, everything else should hopefully synchronize and work. So whilst this is a longer thing to do, it should make it reproducible and easier to sort of set up and do things. We can also sort of make it work better as well. There is this concept of having Python inline script metadata now, which is a relatively new thing. A lot of people are not even aware of it yet. But it allows us to add extra TOML now embedded into our file so that we can, for example, add in our PyProject dependencies here and what version of Python to use here, so that when we run the script, those will basically be picked up by UV and import it all there as well. So we can do even simpler standalone versions if we wish doing this. I'm not going to bother with this year. I think just having UV and pyproject.toml will be enough, but that does, add to what we can do, gives us more flexibility if needed. So in theory, we could just do this, add in our inline metadata here, and give them a file to work with and run. Well, you'll also notice, UV's picked up the VM for us. We can also ask it to run in other ones. We don't really want to do that because obviously we haven't got any of the dependencies installed, so that's nice. And as I say, there's the debug panel here as well, so we can go into debug mode, create a new session. At its simplest, we can just say run this module there, and it will go off. And at the moment, first time running, it's just installing the debugging module and everything else that's needed there, and now you can see it's run it. But what we can do now is we can put in breakpoints. So set a breakpoint there, then we can ask it to run our program. And we're ready to run. We have to restart. There we go. Run our program, and you can see we've got breakpoints. We can look at all the variables. We can get the console output. So it's a standard debugger as per normal. We can look at our variables there now, so you can see height, width, and so on. Really nice and simple to use. I will do more detailed stuff on this at a later date, as you can see. So next, we're going to look at some tools which help us clean up after ourselves and make our lives a little bit easier. So the first one is this tool called VM Cleaner, which I'll demonstrate in the next lecture.